All right. Looks like we're all ready to get started again. Welcome everybody back to another edition of our behavior talks. Thanks everybody for all the comments and suggestions. We're trying to incorporate as much as we can within the scope of our abilities. So today we're going to continue with a talk that began a couple weeks ago, which is effective teaching. Really what we're going to be talking about today is, well, how do we maximize teaching? Like, what are the ways that we can get a child to learn to their ability level? Some of this is also from the last presentation, so bear with us as we kind of recap a few things here. To be the most effective teacher possible, you have to be good at behavior management. And really what that's talking about is addressing all of the child's inappropriate behaviors, because those inappropriate behaviors always serve to slow down their learning. The problem behaviors we're really talking about are protests or tantrums, whining, screaming, crying, throwing themselves on the ground, engaging in any of those type of behaviors. Behaviors might escalate to things like hitting and kicking and spitting at you. Kids might just be non-responsive, meaning like, you tell them to do stuff and they behave as if no instruction was ever given. Some parents have reported like, it seems as if my child is deaf or hard of hearing, and yet they can hear like an ice cream truck or something like that nobody else hears, or they know when somebody's at the front door. But when you give them an instruction that they don't want to follow, it's as if nobody told them to do anything at all. Non-compliance is not listening to you, but not responding to you, but not listening to you. So doing things like, I'm doing something, but I'm doing it wrong, or I'm doing it not to the level that I'm capable of doing it. We have good old task refusal, which is, you tell them to do something and they deliberately say no. The first thing that we're going to teach everybody how to do is how to get rid of these problems behaviors by escape extinction. To recap what escape extinction is, okay? Extinction is a process where you're deliberately making sure the reason why a child does something never gets fulfilled. So if the child wants attention, you want to make sure that they don't get attention. If the child is doing something to get something that they want, you make sure they don't get what they want. In this instance, it's escape extinction, which means that, the child doesn't want to listen to you, doesn't want to be in that situation, does not want to do what you want them to do. And so your job is to make them do what you want them to do. What that means is that if you told them to go wash their hands, they should go wash their hands. If you told them to do their homework, they should do their homework, okay? It means that whatever it is, whatever demand that you make of the child, you're gonna make them listen to you. If you ask them to go wash their hands and they try to run away from you, you grab them and you make sure that they don't run away from you. If they try to hit you or kick at you or spit at you, then you make sure that, nope, doesn't matter what you do, I'm gonna make you wash your hands. By the time that we're done here, you will have done what I've asked you to do, and it doesn't matter what behavior you try to do, it still ultimately ended with you listening to what I told you to do. Remember how extinction works is by making sure that for whatever reason why the child's engaging in the behavior that they're engaging in, the function of that behavior is no longer met. Okay, so whenever you give the child an instruction and they don't listen to you or they engage in all these behaviors, okay, what you're doing is you're cutting off their ability to escape from the task that you've given them, which means that whatever I told you to do, you're going to make the child be able to do. What happens then is that the child learns, you know what? Hitting doesn't work. It doesn't get me out of the task. Spitting at you doesn't work. Kicking you doesn't work. Me trying to run away doesn't work. And that's what happens with extinction, is that they learn by engaging in all of these behaviors. If they can never escape and never get away from the task that you've given them, the behavior will go away. Remember that most of the time, every family I've come across, right, the child has become the king or queen of that household, which means that the family makes their very decisions based on the child. Are they going to protest? Oh, should we go out here because of my child's behavior? Should we do this because of my child's behavior? So the child has learned to control their environment, even to the smallest things. Like, oh, you know what? Every time I drive down this street, if I make a right turn here, my child's going to have a big tantrum. They're going to scream to the top of their lungs. However, if I make a left instead, sure, it's going to take me a lot longer to get home, but at least it doesn't get them started with the crying, And that's the kind of power they exert over your existence, that you make compromises on a day-to-day basis to avoid these kind of behaviors. But by avoiding them, it's what gives them the power. Anyone in a position of power, nobody wants to give power up. And that's what you're going to find with your kids, is that I will not relinquish this power without a fight. And that's what happens, is that as you kind of tackle these things, as you kind of follow through with your instructions and things like that, there's a battle ahead. Okay. And that leads us to what we talked about before. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Okay? And what that really means is that these behaviors are going to escalate. They're going to climb. They're going to get worse, because this used to work for me. And now that it no longer does, I need to find a way to get that power back. And most of the time, it's through this escalation process and going through other types of behavior. So that if I'm used to crying and screaming as my method, and that no longer works right now, then let me try hitting. Oh, let me try running away. Let me try these other types of behaviors, and you'll see a lot of behaviors cycle through. And when they cycle through, you know that you're being effective, because that's how behaviors go away, is that, oh, this doesn't work, so let me try this. Oh, that doesn't work, let me try this. And it's only until they get through all of those that they settle down and actually listen to what you want them to do. My advice to you, get ready to fight. Get ready to battle. The thing is that when you're looking at preparing for the battle, you want to make sure that everyone in that immediate family is on board with this battling, right? Because nothing is going to sabotage you more. Nothing's going to harm this process more than a family member giving in to this child's inappropriate behaviors. Many of you might be thinking like, oh my God, can I handle a fight? Oh, is it even worth the battle? I'm already tired as is. What's the point? Why should I do it? The thing is, this is my son, and in a blink of an eye, he's growing up, and we like to think we have the luxury of time for everything, but when we really do not. Okay. So the thing really is that if you don't do it right now, when are you going to do it? Because time is going to fly on you. And before you know it, they're going to be another year older. As every year passes, they're really only getting stronger, faster, bigger, and more difficult to manage. We all get older and we're getting weaker, we're getting less energy. So if you think you're tired today, you're going to be more tired next year and the year after. It's not going to get better for you necessarily. So if you think they're hard to manage today, they're going to be much more harder to manage in a year from now, and 2 years from now, and 5 years from now, if you don't look at doing these things now. A 2-year-old tantruming at his worst is nothing compared to us 15, 16-year-old tantruming at their worst. It's not even in the same planet in terms of how bad those protests can get. And because I have experience, I worked with 2-year-olds and 18-month-olds all the way up to 19-year-olds, okay? It's a whole different experience dealing with behaviors when they're bigger, stronger, faster, and it takes a lot more work the longer of a reinforcement history they have, meaning like, oh, they've been doing this for the last so many years of their lives, getting rid of that behavior is going to be much more challenging than, oh, you know what? He's 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. He doesn't have that long of a history to work through. The thing that I can absolutely tell you is with every family that I've ever worked with, the fight is worth it. Because if you see your child a year later and 2 years later, and they are spending a lot less of their time engaging in all of these problem behaviors, and they're spending a lot more time being happy and being productive with their time. The first really big piece of advice is to pick your battles, to choose the battles you're going to fight and choose which ones you're not going to worry about for right now. For whatever reason, you're super tired that day and you see your child doing something that you don't like them doing, but you're just too tired to make them stop, don't even tell them to stop it, because it doesn't matter anyways, because if you tell them to stop it, you don't have enough energy to follow through anyway. So it's better not to say anything, because every time you say something but you don't follow through, you lose credibility, right? Your child doesn't believe you anymore because they just talk all the time about telling me to do stuff. I can always ignore them because there's no consequence for ignoring them.